Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hello, Ollie. I've been watching your videos for months now and finally mustered the courage to write about my narcissistic mother-in-law. I'm 19, my fiancée is 20, and she is 39. My relationship with her has been extremely confusing over the past 4 years. Me and now my fiancé have been together. But everything came full circle after discovering narcissistic personality disorder in your channel. My fiancé and I met in the 6th grade when he asked me out using Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue poem written in a note. I declined, but we remained friends and dated on and off until we made it official in the 10th grade. He told me what drew his attention to me was my seemingly outgoing personality, similar to that of his mother. Ironically, we're both Scorpios. Upon meeting her when I was in the 9th grade, she was the fun mom and the life of the party. Everywhere she went, she was the loudest person. Not to mention, she's a beautiful woman. So people flocked to her, including myself. So she was 19 when she had your fiance. I want to start off by saying you're both way young. You're both really, really young. Okay? And I caution you, okay, right off the bat, jumping into a marriage, no matter how, you guys have not lived any of your life yet. So there were several red flags that I didn't notice that would have told me everything I needed to know. She required everyone to kiss her cheeks as a greeting because it was Hispanic tradition. She would tell all these stories about her life and her family as if it were a reality show or a soap opera recap. Okay, so she's a Latina drama queen, like Charlene's mother. This is Charlene's mother to a T. Okay, it's all sexuality. It's all. If Charlene's mother, because what is her mother now, like 58, Charlene's mother, if she was born 10, 15 years earlier, Charlene's mother's angry that she's too old to be shaking her ass on Instagram. And she still tries, shakes her ass everywhere. And that's kind of, I think, what you're dealing with here. She bragged about all the fights she had gotten into and how she beat up her husband's sisters. She was extremely open and provocative with her direction, whether she was talking to a child or an adult. I recall my fiancé's 16th birthday when two things weird occurred. After all the birthday events transpired, we gathered for a group photo and he scooped her off her feet and held her like a princess. In hindsight, ill. Yeah, ill. And these are major red flags, especially with Latino men and their mothers. And this sounds like, because you guys are so close in age, it's not really that close in age, but you're so close in her mind, she wants to party. And you might be marrying a possible son husband here. That's what it sounds like. If at 19 or whatever age this was, you're already like, ew, it's ill. After all the party goers went into the house to wait for our parents, and her son, and his friend recited a rap for us about pussy. Everyone in the room was laughing, but I could tell Xavier was extremely uncomfortable. He kept messing up and shaking his head at her parts. Yeah, who wants to sing about pussy with their mother? When we started dating, neither he or I drove, so we would go on dates every weekend with his family. After a month of dating, our parents met, so my folks trusted them with me. I was always with them doing something, whether it be the movies, dinner, shopping, or trips. Although I always kept $20 or $40 on me for occasions, they always insisted on paying for me. I had a great bond with his family. I met every relative, and they seemed nice and accepting. After 8 months of us being together, I went on a trip to New York, where I and his mother are originally from, for spring break. The itinerary was filled with activities, but once we got there, all we did was visit her childhood stomping grounds in Times Square. The day of our departure, we were eating pizza near Liberty Park, and her daughter, at the time, she was 10 years old, was cold. I gave her my Letterman jacket I wore all trip to wear, and my mother-in-law said it looked as if her daughter wasn't loved because the jacket was so dirty. She began to pick lint off the jacket with a look of disgust. Yeah, that's the mother protecting. That's the mother alienating her competition now, because she sees you at this point as competition. When we all jumped in the car to get ready to leave, my boyfriend was showing her pictures and videos he had taken. He's a photographer. In one of the photos, I was walking ahead of him, and she said, "Oh, that walk. We're going to have to work on that. I'm going to have her daughter in heels at 13. I swept it under the rug and became conscious about the way I walked after that. A few weeks later, she picked me up from school to go to my boyfriend's baseball game. But instead of going with him, we were going to have girl time and go to her daughter's softball game. In the long car ride, she was telling me how she never knew how funny I was until we went to New York, and she enjoyed my company. Yeah, now she wants to be buddies with you. It's like that passive, it's like maybe she's like passive-aggressive friend pack here. It's like making her own wolf pack, pseudo. I felt honored that way because I always wanted was for her to like me. Somehow it led into a conversation about sex, where she asked if I had done anything before. I was still a virgin at the time, so I told her no. She asked if I had ever given head. Mind you, I'm 16, and her daughter is in the back seat. I answered no. She's asking. What a whore. What a fucking whore. She proceeded to tell me how she didn't like doing it at first, but she had given her husband some the other day, and he was going crazy for it. I was so creeped out and happy we were getting closer and closer to my house. That summer, after a year of being with my boyfriend, I lost my virginity. The dynamic of our relationship had enhanced completely. We sought out more privacy, and since my boyfriend began driving, we started to go on real dates. On days we were broke, we would chill at his house, and it became a big thing for us to sit in the car in front of my house for hours talking and laughing until my 11:30 curfew, because he didn't have one. After about 2 months of doing this, his mother started making anyone around, his father, a cousin, a friend, ride to my house with us because she feared of him driving alone. I think it was just a way to get him home faster so he wouldn't spend as much time with me. One time she came, it's just her way of cock-blocking him. She's a cock-block. I mean, this is what they do. This is what the narcissistic mother does. She cock-blocks. That's what she's doing. One time she came home while me and a friend were watching the Grammys. And that's what the sex talk was about. She was figuring out how to cock block. She wanted to know how far it went, and she wanted to know when she needed to start fucking cock blocking her son husband. That's what she needed to do. One time she came home while me and a friend were watching the Grammys. And when it was time to take us home, she got upset and started throwing pillows at my boyfriend. When he grabbed her to stop, she jumped on his back and bit his shoulder. On the way to my house, this is dysfunctional. On the way to my house, she called him crying, saying how it's hard for her to let him go. Son husband. She is also unusually obsessed with money. After moving out of the house she was renting, they moved into an apartment, and she would talk about how she has to pay for most of the bills because her husband wasn't making as much money at his job. She also talked to me about how he would dip into the kids' trust fund to pay back debts that he had. I remember her throwing a stack of cash at my boyfriend in front of me and two of our friends because he had been asked to play baseball for 1 week in Puerto Rico, and the trip was $1,500 for him to go himself. But she decided to tag along with her husband and daughter, raising the cost up to $11,000. I sold my ass for this money, she yelled. You better play good, too. He was visibly embarrassed. One time at dinner, she asked if we had our own money, and when we said yes, she raved about how happy she was that we were grown now because she was tired of paying for everything. Things took a turn for the worst in March of 2017. My boyfriend suffers from sickle cell along with his mother and her friend. If you don't know what it is, it's a mutation in the hemoglobin that causes red blood cells to sickle and block blood vessels, causing aches and several other worse symptoms. One day, my boyfriend was aching extremely bad in his arm after a baseball game, and when he asked for medicine, she told him that he should be grateful that his disease isn't as bad as hers or her friends. He got defensive and told her that she shouldn't compare the two. She got upset and lashed out at him, calling him disrespectful. When he argued with her, she called him an ungrateful motherfucker and a bitch. She kept calling him names while taking things from him like his phone, car keys, and camera, and told him to get the fuck out. I was sitting there trying to calm him down so he wouldn't give her one more reason. She took me to school to get my car and started calling family members so he could stay with them. Once I got my car, I drove right back to his apartment complex to pick him up and take him to his aunt's, her sister's house. When he came outside, she wouldn't let him leave with me, saying his aunt was coming. She grabbed him by the... because, look, this is all to get him in line. She didn't want him going with you because you're the competition. This is another cock block. She's trying to break him. She's trying to break him and make him an obedient son husband. She's cock-blocking him to make him obedient. When we went outside for about an hour until his aunt and father arrived and they talked her down into letting him go, she tried to implement punishment on him while he was at his aunt's. When that didn't work, she went to her sister's, pleading him how she wanted to be a family again. 2 weeks later, he went back home. Always a mistake. But these kids, they're still in high school at this point. That following month was our prom. She had helped him get a hotel for the night. When she saw the room, she told him to make sure he put my boots on the glass shower. That next day was Easter, and after eating brunch with my family, I went over to his house to hang out with him and his cousin. When I walked in, she asked if he put them on the glass. I was uncomfortable as fuck because her husband and child were both there. I just laughed. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. It's boobs, not boots. I'm like, what? That following month was our prom. She had helped him get a hotel for the night. When she saw the room, she told him to make sure he puts my boobs on the glass shower. Oh my fucking Christ. She rented him a hotel. What? And even though she's setting him up with this, it's still the cock block him. That's still a cock block move. You don't want to be talked like that by your mother. I mean, it's basically to make you lose. I mean, this is the shit my mother would say and make the last thing I'd want to do is fuck after that. It's ruining it for her. Like, it's like, would you... Yeah, I'm fucking pressing it because my mom told me to. Ugh. Fuck. Jesus. Boobs, not boots. Holy shit. The next day was Easter, and after eating brunch with my family, I went over to his house to hang out with him and his cousin. When I walked in, she asked if he put them on the glass. Oh my Christ. I was uncomfortable as fuck because her husband and child were both there. I just laughed and continued walking. Her friend had walked in, and they began to commiserate in the bedroom. When I walked out, she called me into the kitchen and told me to apologize to her friend for calling her ugly. I told her I didn't remember ever calling her ugly, and I wasn't going to apologize for something I didn't say. She told me just apologize, while her friend stood next to her, smirking. I ended up apologizing. Why? I'm like, I'm not apologizing. That's something my parents could never get me to do, is to apologize. I don't know. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. This ties in later. I went back into the room and told my boyfriend she was doing way too much, and later told him I felt like she was trying to compete with me. 3 days later, I got into a huge blowout with my entire family about me smoking weed and ran away from home. I was going to stay at a friend's house, but she had an older brother and I wasn't familiar with, so I decided to stay with my boyfriend. We asked his parents if I could stay, and they said it was fine. They began to counsel me and ask questions about why I was smoking. I opened up to them about how I felt about my family and other things. After that conversation, she told me we needed to talk. About an hour later, at 1 a.m., she told me she talked to my boyfriend, and he told her that he feels there is a competition between us. She began telling me how she is his mother and she is his sister. Will always come before me until we're married. She proceeded to say that I am not even in her league. She then asked me what my issue was with her, and I brought up how she throws money in everyone's face, literally and figuratively. She asked for examples. I told her about the stack she'd thrown at her son 6 months before at Easter dinner. She then went on about how disrespectful I was, talking shit about her friend, and didn't want to apologize. I defended you because I wasn't going to see about how meaning beat. I defended you because she was going to see about you, meaning beat your ass. I told her her friend can see about me and get her ass beat. She stood up and began talking with her hands. At this point, my blood was hot. She then brought up how I have fought with my mom and claimed her sister says I brag about it. I sat quietly, fidgeting with the drawstring on my jacket to avoid being angry. His mother then said, "Any bitch that'll fight her mom won't give a fuck about fighting me." I remember her sitting next to me saying, "You aren't my daughter, so you don't have to be here." And I responded, "You aren't my mom, so I'm going to pack my shit." As I walked to the room to get my stuff, she had awakened her husband to tell him to take me home because I was a disrespectful little bitch. I walked towards the door saying, "You want to hear yourself speak?" As I was walking outside down the stairs, she came yelling still, "You think you just checked me?" Her husband grabbed her again, yelling that I'm just a kid. Somehow she escaped and came down the stairs and walked up on me. I then squared up, but before she could reach me, my boyfriend slammed me on the ground, yelling that I'm not about to fight his mom. Well, that should end the fiancé part right there. That should end the fiancé part of him right there. Okay? Right there and then. Because she's willing to fight you over him and he's willing to body slam you to protect her. I started to hit him on the back and she started screaming. Now she's hitting my son. I got into the car and he drove off. After that day, I vowed to myself never to get out of character with anyone ever again. His mother and I didn't speak until July of that year. She had fallen out with her siblings over a trip to Cuba where she was high the entire time. She called my boyfriend to speak to me about how the whole situation was blown out of proportion and she misses me in our relationship. I think, like, so you didn't break up with him after he body slammed you? I think it was because he was going to college in a neighboring state and she assumed we would end up breaking up anyway. He was told he couldn't play for the school due to his disease and dropped out that November. After completing my first semester, I dropped out of school because I decided to take a different path, which was real estate school. We would hang out at his house sometimes, but not often because it was still an underlying beef between his mother and I. When I walked in the house, I would say hello, but I wouldn't hug or kiss her cheeks as she took his disrespect. The more I came over, the more I realized that she didn't want me there. That next May, she was throwing and getting together in honor of her upcoming hip surgery. I was invited, but was apprehensive about going. My gut told me not to, but somehow I told myself everything would be fine, and I went to that godforsaken house. I wore a miniskirt, and as soon as I walked in, she asked if I could bend over because my skirt was short. I laughed uncomfortably and said no, and then her brother asked if we were fucking or fighting on the way there because because of how long it took us to get there. Truth is, we expected some bullshit after the 5 phone calls asking where we were. I walked to the bedroom. As I heard her say, I was making myself easy access for him to have sex with me. In a room full of people, including the woman who claimed she wanted to see about me. After 15 minutes, I had enough and we began to leave. We were heading out. One of her friends asked if we were going to sit in the driveway until 2 in the morning. The next morning, I woke up to a text from his mom saying she apologizes on behalf of her brother for me feeling that way, and that's just how they talk in her family. She continued to say that she has to realize that we are just sensitive and she cannot joke with us. I called my boyfriend before I responded and came to find out once he got home, his friend told him that his mother was calling me disrespectful in front of her house full of friends, saying I was distraction for him. He confronted his mother and told her she was disrespectful for saying those things about me, especially in the presence of others. However, her apology was bullshit because while I was on FaceTime with him, I heard her walk in the room and say that you need to get your girl, see? I apologized and she didn't respond. I then texted back telling her we weren't sensitive but needed to develop boundaries, especially regarding her and our intimacy. She flipped out, came in the room saying, no bitch is going to tell me I need boundaries with my son. You've only been in his life for 3 years. You can't do shit for him. More cock blocking. And you just keep going on. And the word disrespectful just makes my blood boil. A few days later, his father called upset saying I shouldn't have just accepted the apology. I was disrespectful and was going to end up getting beat up if I kept on. A month later, I ended up telling my mom everything that happened over the course of the past 2 years. She hadn't been privy to any of it. She was infuriated about it, and I found out the next morning she and his mother had exchanged words through text and over phone. In a quick gist, she told my mother-in-law that she is disingenuous and evil, and that she found and that she should address her the next time she has something to say about me. My mother-in-law responded that I was obsessive and insecure and I wasn't going to last for long anyway. She continued with all I am good for is sucking and fucking and I'm a weed head hobo. My mother then told her to drop dead. The conversation continued, but it was pointless digs about my weight, all the things she had done for me, and how my parents are broke. She even got her daughter to write nasty comments on my Instagram pictures. She keeps milking the whole drop dead thing to him, saying how he could associate himself with me and my family after my mom said that. She also went on video saying that she's never breaking bread with me again, and that she and her daughter will fight me. But when my fiance addressed her about it, she claimed she didn't know how to work Instagram and post the video. She also tried to reach out after I had been in a car accident, but her number is blocked. So she told my fiance that I am rude for not acknowledging her, trying to be nice. I have spoken to her since that whole argument, but it fucked me up But it fucked me up for a long time because all I could think about for months was bashing her head or slitting her tires. But I remained in my corner and decided to focus on my relationship with my now fiance. He shouldn't be your fiance as long as he's in a relationship with his mother. He shouldn't be your fiance as long as he's in contact, unless he breaks all contact with his family because they are all toxic perverts. No dice. And I think you're too young for this anyway. We're still working through it, but I showed him the videos on narcissistic mothers and he identified with every point. I want him to come to those realizations on his own, though, so I'm not pushing him to do anything. As long as I remain no contact or gray rock, we are moving out now into our own apartment, and she is trying to buy us things like kitchen utensils to butter our way back in. I have already mapped out in my head how to have her in my life as minimally as possible because my fiance and I love each other so much. He don't love you enough to break it off with his mommy, though, does he? I'm honestly relieved to release this because I don't talk about it often or even at all. And if I do, I get the same old, that's his mom. Thank you for reading my lengthy story, Anonymous. Look, you're very young and you don't have a lot of life experience, Anonymous. Okay? What I am going to tell you here is that is an unhealthy, sexualized relationship that his mother has, that your fiance has with his mommy. This should not be your fiance as long as there is a relationship with mommy. What do you think is going to happen when you have kids with him? What do you think her behavior is going to be like then? What do you think a wedding is going to be like, trying to plan a wedding with her in the picture? It's only going to get worse. If he loved you so much, he would do the right thing. He body slammed. He's already showed you who comes first. Mommy comes first. Because when she's coming after you and you squared up to protect yourself, he body slammed you. Not mommy. That means mommy comes before you. Mommy comes before any of your responsibilities. Mommy's going to come before any children you have with him. Because mommy's obsessed with cock blocking them. I think you're way young for this anyway. But you shouldn't even be in his presence, let alone getting married to he can't carry on a relationship with them. He can't. Because this is only going to get worse. Bottom line. The cock-blocking, narcissistic mother. There you go. And it's never going to end. And it is only going to get worse. So I hope that helps. Thank you for your contribution and story, Anonymous. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.